Hello everybody. Today, welcome to Purple Corner, our little corner of JLF, and I'm probably going to say this a million more times in the day. Hopefully you won't hear it together. Today we have with us Saras Manickam, as a Malaysian author whose translation, My Mother Pattu, has been released by Penguin, and I'm so happy because, as you know, we love Indian and South Asian, and we're getting into Asian literature. Because for our readership, your book and your work, which has won many awards, by the way, a long list. I don't want to take up the video time with it. But your work has been so celebrated. And so, one, how does it finally feel to reach out to this very different public, a wider reading public through the English translation, which I think it would be...
No. I have to make it clear.
Yeah.
It's not a translation.
Oh, it's not original.
Original English.
Okay.
English.
So, but this is the first time a book is out here in India.
Absolutely.
And how does it feel to have this whole different readership?
I think, yeah.
And
I have Indian people messaging me because I've been to Kerala and then to the Chennai Book Fest and then here, and I'm going to Mathrubhumi, and one of the people from Kerala messaged me and said, I love your book, I love your book, I love your book. I cried and cried and cried. Okay, not everything is not weepy, it's not weepy, but one or two what do you call it? They're a bit not sad. I wouldn't say sad. I don't deliberately create emotions. I don't manipulate emotions. But I think because they're authentic and they're real, they get that strikes a chord in people.
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, I think she cried over one of the stories about a disabled child, mother talking to God, telling God to F off, as it were, because the child is disabled. And then you have got all these nice pictures of people saying God has chosen you, and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
In real life, in day-to-day life, it's bullshit, because so many things come into play. So she talks to him, and I have parents telling me, you're telling me things that I have no words to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what I feel. Yeah. And then I had also had pastors coming to tell me, we know how you feel, but you shouldn't say it.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, right.
But a writer's job is to say the things that you think.
It's not, it's like challenging or exploring comfortable conventions.
Yes.
Mothers should be like this.
Yes.
Children should be like this, husbands, and always mothers. It's not so much husbands or sons, it's mothers.
Yes.
Women have to do this.
Yes.
And you have to be happy doing it. And if you are not happy doing it, you got a price to pay. And a lot of women here, they pay the price. So that's what I want to talk about, because they're not extraordinarily famous women, just ordinary women, migrant workers, housewives, whatever, writers. But they refuse to bow down to the patriarchy, or they challenge conventions that make you happy, and they pay the price. The prize, My Mother Pattu, the short story prize, short stories won this Commonwealth Asian
2019,
region.
yeah.
But that's not a good mother. Everyone says, oh, My Mother Pattu is probably a story of sacrifice. the great mom, Mother Earth. She's not, she's a horrible woman. She abuses a child. But having said that, they say, no, but you can't feel angry with her. You want to hate her because she's done such horrible things, but you can't. And I think it's because I'm talking about real people.
Yeah.
There are no good people or bad people. People are complicated. People are complex.
Yeah, and so women are. You cannot just like portray the good woman all the time and put them in a box of being good.
Exactly, and on a pedestal, worse.
Yeah.
Which is worse because you can't climb down.
And it becomes a burden. You have to now keep up this good image, this good girl image.
Yes, and also it's like abusers are also, perpetrators are also victims.
Yes.
Victims are also perpetrators.
Yes.
There's one, I just want to tell you, where I'm so scared of writing to victimhood, which is wrong.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to dine out on being a victim. Why do that,
Yeah.
Get alive. So, she talks about her own mother. I mean, the racial discrimination affects Indians, fine. But she also talks about her mother, who grumbles when her father brings his workers to the house for lunch. what is their religion, what is their race, what is their caste. You know?
Yeah.
We are just as bad.
Yeah.
Talking about bigotry
Yes.
and intolerance. So I wanted to talk about it openly.
Yeah.
You know, we need to talk about it.
And that's so many themes you've explored.
Yes.
And you spoke about this one fan from Kerala who said, I cried so much.
Yes.
As a writer, and I've attempted to write stuff. I'm not quite there yet. I feel like there's some time for
There's
me.
a secret to it, which I talked about today.
Yeah.
To an almost empty audience.
Now we have a wide audience.
My secret would be if I like a book, then I read it once for pleasure. The second time is work. I read it for the craft. How the bloody hell did they create structures, sentences, pictures? You learn the craft from the best, from the books that you enjoy. Because you're going to write stories like them.
Yeah.
Those kind of things that you enjoy.
Yeah. And I mean, you have raised it, so I have to ask, which were the books and stories that influenced and not influenced, but inspired you, that made you want to pick up and say, okay, this is the story I want to write, and this is the mood I want to write in, and whom did you turn to for craft?
Okay, this is the embarrassing bit. I tell you to read stuff like that, and I read detective fiction. I adore detective fiction. I adore Dorothy Sayers, Elizabeth George, Louise Penny from the newer ones. And I can't write a line of detective fiction to save my life, but their craft.
Yeah.
Absolutely, their craft.
Yes.
The way they create characters.
Yes.
And the way they cover emotions and layer the layers, Oh, you learn that.
Yeah. And I wanted to add, it's not embarrassing because if you read too much of what you write, you begin to sound like them. You have to read different stuff,
Yes.
I think that's a smart thing, if anything. But I want to speak about, I had so many questions, I'm now blanking out a little bit. The quality. So when you write such difficult, but emotionally heavy stories, as a writer, are you able to kind of detach from those emotions, or are you also sometimes breaking down while writing? Because I feel like there's so much you give as a writer,
you do,
emotionally.
You do. Yes.
So do you feel drained after that, and how do you kind of deal with this emotionally?
Okay, two parts to it. Most of the stories are written in the first person.
Yes.
Because you take on the role of, and you do feel. You do cry, you do laugh, you do tingle,
Yeah.
But also, the author's authorial ego. It's like, hey, I've written a prize-winning story, I'm good, And then you think you've got it made. But that just happened to me many years ago.
Yeah.
Because some of my stories got published when I was in university. And I thought, I got it. It's easy, stories. And that was wrong, because subsequently all stories got rejected.
Oh.
Because I became too clever. I began to think of myself. I didn't think of the story. I didn't think of the characters.
Yeah.
Even my stories here, I take a long time because I'm a doofus, and also because I'm half sloth. I take a long time to realize, can you just get out of the way and let the story speak? Let the character. It's so important that you're only a conduit for the story. You forget it because you think you're so clever. I'm going to shape the story. I tried that I still try that because I never learn. You want to shape the story to how it should be. It fails.
Yeah.
Because it's not your story. It's a character story.
Yeah.
It's a story. So you're a channel.
Yeah.
And let the characters speak. So very often when I try writing, the ending that finally happens is suddenly completely different from what I would have envisaged. The first story here, I wrote it some time ago and it's ready for publishing. And I loved it. I thought it was so good, And when I came back to it, just before I published it, submitted it, it was rubbish. Not rubbish, it was good. But it was smug.
Forced.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Very, very clever, very smooth, very nicely, very nicely folded and shaped. That wasn't the story.
Yeah.
Then I realized, no, I'm not being fair to the characters. The characters deserve something more. Then I went back to it, and then final treatment made it so much better that someone wrote to me and said, I know many women like that character, A woman is loved by her husband, loved by the family, loved by everybody, but she has no agency. She has no agency. She has no power over her own life. Her husband has the power. Everyone else, the men have the power. Everybody has power over her life. And that's what she realizes. Much as she's loved,
Yeah.
she can't make her own decisions.
Decisions, yeah.
And that was a turning point for many people.
Yes.
Hey, you wrote about that.
Yeah. Love just becomes a trap of sorts.
It's not a trap.
Not a trap.
It is loving.
It is
Yeah.
loving and it's honest. But it comforts you so
Yes.
much that you stop realizing that you don't have the initiative.
Oh, she realized that when she wanted to go away to visit a family in India.
Yeah.
The husband says no. She can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Of course he loves her. He can't live without her. And now she can't travel to see her parents, her family,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
the prison.
The prison. It's a soft kind of prison, but it is one nevertheless. I want to speak to your life. You've said you've loved two things actually. One, before writing fiction, you've written all sorts of things.
Yes.
And copy, and you've taught textbooks. You've written
Books.
everything. I was
Because
reading.
you know, real life, you got to earn money, and you have to earn money. You have to keep on working, and nobody buys fiction in Malaysia, and it's also not very good at it. Writing school books was easier.
Okay.
You know, I wrote for Oxford, which was Oxford Fajar in Malaysia, and Longman before it became Pearson, and I wrote for Pearson as well. So I wrote for all the major academic publishers. And that brought in the money.
And which is
very important. You can't run away from that.
Yeah. But does that affect your craft? Because you have to write in such a different, sometimes simplified, sometimes uptight format for textbooks.
Exactly.
And then, that inhibition-free writing that fiction demands.
If you're writing like that, it's very hard to go back to fiction.
Yeah.
Because many of us can't break.
Yeah.
It's seamless kind of. So it is true. That's why maybe I took so long. I'm 100 years old. And it took ages to finally come up with David collection. Isn't it boring?
Yeah,
Terrible.
no, not. But it also gives you that much more wealth to explore through.
And I think the stories reflect a maturity, which I wouldn't have had in my teens or in my youth, a kind of a roundedness, a maturity.
Yes.
And that's why the characters can be complex and yet not totally hateable, because life...
And not shallow.
They're not shallow.
Not shallow.
Yeah. And some of them, like the moderator today, she said, I couldn't sleep because I was thinking of the stories. She write those stories, but... And she said, it affected her.
It is.
So I'm so glad about that,
Yeah. And that's why we read fiction, is right? To sift through our emotions through these stories.
Yes, and to see some truths in there,
Yeah. You spoke a little bit about the literature in Malaysia, and you said not a lot of fiction. Can you speak more about
books
that?
Are so expensive in Malaysia. I think one of the wonderful things about India is the price of the books.
Yes.
I'm actually buying this book to give away to other people. I say, buy me, I can afford it. I can't afford to do that in Malaysia.
Yeah.
It's 75 ringgit, this book.
Oh.
And here it's equivalent to about 20 ringgit, which is a huge difference.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. So, And coming to all the festivals here, I realized, looking at the crowds everywhere, the literary scene is vibrant. People love to read, people love to discuss, they love to buy books and talk about them. And that's what makes a society, literary.
Yeah, and thriving, culturally thriving.
Absolutely.
So
and people are thronging the fest.
They are, especially the weekends. There's no place to walk sometimes.
Yeah.
So are there Malaysian authors that are...
Oh, yes.
That you would recommend that we can read?
Absolutely. I've got 3 writers. They all lived outside Malaysia.
The irony.
The irony. Preeta Samarasan is one of the best writers that we have. She lives in France. Her second book came out last year. She's possibly the best writer that we have in Malaysia, as a Malaysian, not in Malaysia, as a Malaysian, because she is so incisive in her insights. The power of the language, the way she can create. Her craft is so good. And then you have Tash. Tash Al lives in London, I think. He's also an award-winning, he's a writer. And we have Tan Tuan Eng, also living in South Africa. You see these guys?
Yeah.
I have to go live in India, I think.
We'll be more than happy.
So he's an award. He's pretty good. And in Malaysia, we've got Karina Samshu. Karina Barin, who won the Epigram Prize in Singapore. Right. But that's about, and we have other writers too, but these are the ones who are really, really great.
Yeah, but maybe the moment will come soon.
Yeah.
For you and your writing journey, you say it's come late to you, and you've come to it late rather. But I heard this in one of my favorite movies. It's called The Guernsey Literary and Potato.
Ah, I love that.
I love that movie.
Yes,
it's so wonderful.
So warm and,
and yet so rich and so nuanced.
Absolutely.
And the way it flits back and forth between the occupation and the time after that.
Lovely.
It's both hopeful and sad. I think that balance of emotions is beautiful.
And yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But in that, I forgot the character's name, but the women protagonist. I know Dorsey is the guy. Amelia. Elizabeth McKenna. That's the ghost. No, anyway, the women protagonist. She says that, the doing has given me an appetite for doing more. Is that happening to you now that you've,
I've always been doing. It's not doing successfully.
But maybe that's switch.
And also the other thing is, what I discovered about me is that I can't for the life of me write towards a market, a target audience. I'm hopeless.
Don't think we should.
We should, yeah. So the only thing that I can talk about my book is that it's searingly honest and a bit brutal sometimes. It's also quite funny. It's under the surface wry humor, but it's very honest, it's very authentic, and it doesn't pretend. I can't do sentimental, I can't do romantic, but it's very authentic. I think I believe so. So that any number of people come and tell you, I like your work, and when young people tell me I love that story, it means something. It means that I'm linking with the younger people.
Yeah.
But
what next? Are you working on something already?
Yeah, the family's preventing me by being horrible. The horrible children, messy, mom, where's my food, this kind of stuff. The house needs to be cleaned, clothes need to be washed, hung, dried, ironed. I hate it. I hate housework. But yes. But every woman goes through that.
We do. I can say that.
Absolutely.
Whether it's in you're 10, you're 20, you're in India, in Malaysia, this is a common story for most of us.
And you write in between that. You don't use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
That's how we do things, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's how I do it. A bit slow there. That was a bit slow. But it gets done slowly. But
have they read your book? Have they read it?
That's funny. My husband doesn't read. So now he's in a very unique position because the book, it has become a kind of, people like the book, so he's forced to read it. So he says, maybe by the end of the year, I might be able to finish it. Okay, but my son, who's studying in Germany, Sindhu has read it. He's one of the people who dedicated the book. So he's read it and he says, I really like it. Coming from your child is high praise. They never praise their mothers.
They do. I'm guilty of that as well. I will say it. I will go home and tell my mother something nice. It's a good reminder. It's a good reminder.
They never say praise their mothers. So I've told all my friends, my mother's a writer.
Oh, how proud you must feel about it.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
Such a nice, humble pride that you must now
I know, yeah.
Okay,
now let's just hope it sells.
We really hope so.
I really hope so,
we're going to put links to My Mother's Pattu in all our descriptions. So please go buy it. And it's one of the most cathartic reads of the year, I think. I'm going to quickly grab one of the stories and do it after the session.
Well, the moderator did tell me. Yeah. Till that, our audience is wonderful.
It is.
So that's fantastic.
It is.
Even though nobody came.
It was, in her defense, it was morning hour. Jaipur has decided to rain. So
yes,
we blame
and
it on
there was a marathon apparently
last night.
and
It was
so
a
they
night
blocked.
march. Yeah, they blocked roads, and it's a little bit.
So
of a
nobody
chaos.
could come, and then the timing 10
Yeah,
o'clock
10 o'clock.
on a Sunday. It's hard.
Everyone's party too hard on
Yes,
Saturday.
yes, which is fine. But we did have a very cozy, talk.
Yeah.
The people who were there enjoyed it.
And I mean, with books, right? It's like how many people you can touch
Yes,
more
yes,
than
yes.
with what depth, not necessarily how many thousands.
Yes.
I think it builds up, and that's
Exactly.
the book. The longevity of the book
Yes.
is the opposite of films in that sense.
That's
the films is about first day I made, all my theaters were house
True,
full, and
true,
then the
true,
second
true.
week if it's fine.
Yes,
But the
yes.
book I think goes from 1 person to 10 people to 100.
Yes, yes.
In its own
And it lives.
pace and time. It lives on.
Yeah. So when people
Um,
come and tell me, I hate her, I hate Pattu, but I can't hate her. It is tremendous
Yeah.
validation of the
Yes.
craft.
Is that what you were hoping that the reader goes?
Actually, I had no hopes because I'm really not very clever in it. I have to write a story to tell, and then the characters say, "Get out of the way,"
Yeah.
Let us
Let
do
us
the-
shine.
and let us tell the story, and then they tell the story. And if ever I try to interfere and say, "Look, hello, I'm the author," I'm going to shift it this way. It doesn't work. So I'm just the channel, the conduit.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the best thing, because I was so sad about this morning, is that Perumal Murugan, I told you about it.
Yeah.
He had his talk, packed, standing room only, and he mentioned my name 3 times. I love the man.
That's a standing ovation
It
that
was-
makes up for the empty crowd at
Absolutely.
the morning, I hope.
Validation.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't say I was a good writer. He said, my friend. This is very good.
That's better.
Better.
Better, right? The personal connection. I also think good writers make friends only with other good writers, maybe. That's my
But also, I think
conjecture.
writers need to support each other.
That's true.
And I don't believe, although I don't believe it's a competition, although I don't want to sell books, I want to sell more books than you, but that I'm not in competition.
Yeah, it's a sweet sort of thing. Like,
Yes,
oh,
yeah.
my book should sell. But it doesn't
But
mean
I'm
when
not going to kill you.
Yeah,
to push-
exactly.
yeah?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why because our writing is different.
Yeah.
My reader may not be your reader. Your
Yeah.
reader may not be my reader.
Yeah.
We should, like coming to GLF, everybody's been so supportive. Writers, family, my brothers and sisters. My brothers and sisters gave me money.
That is
My
the
nephews
cutest.
gave me money. Go spend. You need money.
Oh, that is so cute.
Isn't it wonderful?
Such warmth.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I'm here on the shoulders of other people. So I remember
The
that.
shoulders of giants. It's a
Exactly,
theory, right?
exactly.
That you always get somewhere because
Yes.
you have shoulders of giants to
Exactly.
stand on.
Exactly.
And it's
So
good to
I remember
that.
that.
It's
You
good
need to be
great.
appreciative and grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because people have supported you.
Yeah.
You guys supporting me. You're the first interview.
And the first of many.
I
Let's say
hope
the
so,
first
yeah,
of many. It has been such a pleasure. I want to
Thank
keep
you.
going and talking to you about it because it's
No,
so.
but you got to go and eat also, okay? You
I
eat.
But thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so
Saras in
much.
Gujarati means nice.
Means?
Nice.
Ah.
When you say you look nice, you say
Say
Saras lage chhe.
Ah.
So, and it's been a very nice chat, sir.
Thank you so much.
And look forward. Have a good time at GLF.
Thank you. Do you have